Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Games series and our Crazy Leela series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we're heading back here to Knight's Odds. Why is that? Well, I just was watching this game and one move in particular just sort of made me think, wow, boom. So there we are. We'll show you how it is. It's a really interesting game. So let's have a look how all this happened. So knight odds, knight on b1 missing, Leela plays b3. Actually, with a knight on b1 missing, Leela plays quite a big variety of openings. With the knight on g1 missing, the variety is a little bit smaller. It's the variety that comes later somehow. But here you see pretty much anything happening. So knight c6, e3, as you'd expect, d5. And, well, Leela doesn't head in this game for any of the normal lines with bishop b5. That's what you see with a knight still on b1. It's still quite interesting even now. But Leela plays the move g3. So playing for some sort of hedgehoggy hippo type system. You see that a lot when Leela's playing odds with black. So black played the move f5. Pretty aggressive. This is, by the way, a sort of a 25-50 Lichess Blitz player. So good player, you know. F5. So just taking the center. Why not? And you know, sort of trying to squash black. I mean, having extra space when you've got an extra piece is probably not a bad idea. So c4, Leela sort of looking for a c takes d5 and then some sort of hedgehog structure. Knight f6 played, and now a3. Yeah, Leela just not rushing. I mean, Leela's basically willing to play pretty much any structure at all. That's the slightly confusing thing about it. You'd think that you know, there would be some clear ways to play odds chess. Certainly in shogi, you know, there's a huge amount of theory about odds play, but you know, really when you're looking at it, of course, it's all been generated by humans. I don't know what would happen if you got a Leela in shogi, but you know, basically the way that the both sides are supposed to play has got quite narrow somehow. You know, where the person with the odds has a few possibilities, but the person giving the odds, you know, kind of has to develop in the same way all the time. But Leela's just doing anything really. So yeah, quite impressive. And that's why, you know, this probably is going to be, you know, impossible to really prepare against Leela, you know, whatever, however much you play against it. So a5 played by black. Why not? Let's just stop white from gaining any space. And now c takes d5 and knight takes d5. I was kind of thinking about playing queen takes d5, you know, just why not hit the rook on h1. I mean, white plays knight f3 and carries on, but it's just certainly in view of what happened in the game, you sort of feel, well, stopping white from playing f4 might be a nice idea. You know, you retreat the queen back afterwards and just carry on developing, basically. Seems quite sensible. But black played knight takes d5. Nothing wrong with that move, of course. Bishop b5, hitting the knight on c6, bishop d6, and now the move f4. Pretty typical in these 1b3 lines. I mean, you see this lots and lots of places, so not unusual. The idea being you're just trying to you know, weaken this pawn on e5, force it to move forwards, and then you're going to have a very powerful bishop on the long diagonal there. So queen e7 played, black trying to keep things together, also protecting the pawn on g7 there, so that when you play e4, that bishop g7 isn't possible. And now queen h5 check from Leela. Pretty standard stuff there. You often throw in this queen h5 check just to try and well, see what black's getting into, really. Here, black played g6. Not a bad move, perfectly fine, but kind of giving white what it wants, you know, by further weakening this diagonal. The engines actually, funnily enough, are really keen on king d8. Just avoid making that weakness, and you're actually threatening e takes f4 now, because with the pin against the king on e1, if g takes f4, there's knight f4. I mean, I don't think Leela's particularly worried about one pawn more or one pawn less, but found it quite striking to see that the engines were avoiding g6. So Queen f3 played by Leela. You can see how hard Leela is trying to get black to move that e-pawn forward and make this bishop on b2 powerful. Just showing the difference somehow between Leela and the other engines. Queen h4 was quite a popular move with Torch there. Yeah, obviously Leela does not want to do this. I mean, even if you're going to win a pawn, you don't want to exchange off the queens. Obviously, Torch and Stockfish not at all optimized for odds players. Leela is, but just good to see the difference somehow. What Leela's doing here is quite special and quite different and quite unusual for an engine. Normal engines just can't do this. So e4 finally played by black, and queen d1. I had a big discussion with Mr. Beads on Mastodon. Just about Tempe, and was saying that with a knight missing, it means that you're somehow ahead in Tempe because you can develop quicker, and it's certainly true. But it's not the whole story really, because you see situations like this where Leela's played queen h5 to f3 to d1, right? And that's sort of giving 3 Tempe away in the opening. But Leela's got an idea about what sort of structure do I want, what sort of structure is going to give me long-term chances against a human player. So a lot of it is just being able to give up Tempe, of course, as well, and convert that into some sort of long-term structure or a long-term dynamic advantage. Here, Leela's basically given up those 3 Tempe just to activate the dark squared bishop here. Now, interesting as well that the engines are being quite cautious. They're looking at going rook f8 simply, rather keep the king in the center rather than castle kingside. I mean, it's not that castling kingside is a terrible move, but obviously the engines look like they feel a little bit uncertain about it. And Leela pounces on this, just sort of starts working away at the kingside and putting that black king into potential danger, not actual danger, but potential danger. h4, so threatening h5. So obviously black doesn't want to allow this. But now the knight comes to h3, which shows the benefits of keeping the knight on g1. The knight's coming round h3 into g5, and this is going to be a little bit awkward. I mean, the combination of a knight attacking these squares and then a bishop attacking the these squares, and then this bishop that can potentially come round here. Well, you can see quite a lot happening somehow. I mean, the king side is quite blocked, so you're not quite sure how you're going to break through, but you're going to, there's potential danger, and, I think, when you're playing odds, that's pretty much all that you can hope for to start with. Now, the engines are actually looking at playing the move king h7 here, to play knight g5, king h6. They feel that the king's safer out of this diagonal. And at the very least, this knight is freer to move. But black played knight d8, which is not a bad move. After knight g5, knight f7. The only problem with that move is that you're not really keen on taking on g5. You can do it, which is useful. And of course you can support your knight now with c6, but you're not really want to take on g5, because after hg5 it's going to give white rook takes h5, and you can just see that look in Leela's eyes. You know that Leela's going to be sacrificing on h5 very soon, maybe with a rook, maybe just with bishop e2 takes h5, which is a possibility anyway at any moment. So yeah, it's one of those examples somehow about how hard it is, the way that Leela plays, how hard it is to really squash Leela's play, and I think it's definitely a difference between the knight odds, the Leela knight odds, that played against David Navarra, and this one. I mean, David made an incredible performance because that bot as well was scoring very heavily against normal human opponents, but it did tend to be sort of something, Leela tended to do one thing, and then once that was done, then it was more or less over somehow, against a really superb player like David. But I really do get the feeling that Leela's going to be setting more challenges along the way now than it was before, and that might not be enough against if somebody plays as well as David did. But I definitely think it's a step up in terms of challenge. I've got one video that you may have seen that is showing how you reach a position and Leela's still a piece down after about move 35, and yet manages just to restart the attack and just generate incredible tactics from very unpromising circumstances. And that's the real problem with it. I mean, surviving the opening's not easy, but surviving the middle game is really tricky as well. So bishop e2 from Leela, interesting move there. I mean, you'd really expect the bishop to be coming around here, but as I said, bishop h5 is what Leela's looking at. So knight f6 played to cover the pawn on h5. Great. Now the bishop returns to c4, and actually Leela's able to win an exchange back. In actual fact, get knight and rook for 2 pieces. But you'll notice that Leela is not at all keen to do it that quickly somehow. Because, Leela's not about material, it's all about activity. So Leela's going to try and keep this pressure, this rather unpleasant pressure, for as long as possible. So c6 played by black, and now queen c2. Just dissuading black from going b5, because we can take, and then we'll take on c6 after. And that's one of the other very awkward things about playing against Leela is that I think certainly when the closest I've ever come to doing this in my own games is simul play, and you do some sacrifices early, misjudge how strong your opponent is, and then you're spending the rest of the game trying to catch up and create threats. But you do tend to be quite one-dimensional about it. You start looking for attacking chances and you keep on going on. But playing against Leela, the problem is that Leela's also sometimes ready to just say, "Ooh, I can pick up a couple of pawns now for that. I think I'm getting back to equality now." That's really the the interesting thing there, that you've always got to be wary of that challenge. Leela's threats are both material based and also attacking based. So that explains why black doesn't go b5, but plays bishop d7, defending c6, and now looking for b5. So b4 played by Leela. Why b4? Why is Leela giving a pawn away? Well, actually just freeing the bishop to retreat. So now when you go b5, I'll just be able to go to b3. And I might be losing an extra pawn on b4, but frankly, who cares? I was a little bit nervous about a takes b4 because it's opening lines, and I don't think black's in any shape or form ready to exploit those lines. So I'd rather sort of keep it closed. And the other thing that's the case is that when you open the a file and you're going to see the bishop taking on a1, exchanging off rooks, then white's queen gets the possibility to move to a2, which seems rather unpleasant there. So after a takes b4, rook a1, rook a1. This wasn't what the engines were looking for. They were looking more at actually at playing the move knight d5. And why knight d5? Well, the white queen and the white bishop were pointing towards h5. Now those have moved away. The engines see, you could move the knight away as well. And start trying to protect that. It's that sort of flexibility is quite hard for human players to deal with there. I mean, it's going fast, lots is happening, it's hard to do it, but if you can do that, then that's a real strength, right? This flexibility. This didn't feel good to me at all when I saw it, and and I don't think it's also giving white the possibility of playing queen b2 as well. I mean, queen c3 was possible as well, but it's just the extra room, the extra flexibility. You shouldn't be giving white that, and I couldn't see an advantage for black when I was watching it, and I couldn't really, I didn't really like the move at all. Black played the move queen d8 here. Which I guess the idea is to play bishop e7 and support the knight on f6. It's quite passive, really, quite passive. So, I'm not sure that would be a good idea in general, to be honest. But I mean, it's starting to get tricky, right? I mean, you're really going to have to calculate properly in order to work your way out of here. It's all looking quite complex with the engines, to be honest. So queen d8 was played. And now maybe you want to just sit back, relax, and just work out what you would play here with white. It's kind of the reason why I took this, why I chose this game. I was watching it live, of course, and you know the games that you see live. I mean, those are really the ones that are make the most impression on you. I mean, good Lord, how many other games, fantastic games that I'm not seeing, right? Just incredible. But anyway, this game had something very nice, and that was G4. 0.00 shout Torch and Stockfish. So from this moment, basically, you know, I think you can start relying on Torch and Stockfish completely, right? They're going to be hitting you all over the board from now on. Now that the position and the evaluation has normalized. Yeah, this is just very, very unpleasant. What is black going to do? I mean, knight g4, we just go queen c3, right? And we're threatening queen g7 checkmate there. And yeah, the best you've got is to give back some material like this, but you're still completely tied up, right? So you know, we'll just do the old rook g1. We'll just get in and just win material, basically. So that is complete carnage. If you go h takes g4, we just carry on with h5, and you know it's like really, really dangerous. I mean, g takes h5, queen a2, we just carry on. I mean, you know, we've got bishop rook f6, bishop f6 threats. We can go queen b2, we can take on f7 and go queen a8 checks after. You know, you shouldn't have opened that a file. You really shouldn't. You know, it's still holdable for black, completely holdable, but you know, I mean, yeah, human holdable? I don't think so. I think you're just really completely gone here, unless you have some flash of inspiration. But actually, you know, black did really well. I mean, black played some good moves for a little while here. Played f takes g4, which is not obvious to me at all, and now knight takes e4. So yeah, we've somehow magically this whole barrier has disappeared, and the queen is now pointing towards this square, which is really nasty. Now, the key thing is that black had to do was somehow give up something along the a1-h8 diagonal and stop white from getting the queen and bishop battery in that order with the queen in front of the bishop. So what black could have done here was to go bishop f5, takes queen f6, of course. We're attacking the queen, so we can take like this. White plays queen c1, and then you play the move bishop e5. And the idea is if bishop takes e5, you go queen e7. Phew, we've managed to get the queen in front of the bishop goes back, and then you can actually move away like that. And if you do something like queen c3, well, we can go knight d6, and we're covering all the squares. I mean, it's just a mess, basically, you know, this position, but black should be sort of fine, according to the engines. But yeah, I mean, materials equal. Yeah, I wouldn't take this position against Stockfish or Torch. If I had the choice, you know, I wouldn't take this one with equal material. But that is the basic thing that you're supposed to be doing. So, for example, after knight e4, queen e4, bishop f5 is not good, but king h7 would be the idea. To meet queen d4 with knight e5, just give up a piece like that and bishop e7, and you can still sort of survive somehow, because after e6 we've got bishop f6, queen d7 and bishop a1, and this is still just about surviving. But okay, you know, I mean, yeah, I think you need to tag team in an engine to hold this sort of stuff for you. I think, you know, from a human perspective, with a shortcut time control or even a fairly longish time control, I think you're already doomed there. So bishop f5 was black's play, and then queen d4, and of course now we've got queen g7 checkmate here, and there's just no way to block the diagonal. You can't play knight e5, and after bishop e5, which is what black played, queen e5 played, and black resigned because of queen g7 checkmate, unstoppable. I mean, a really cool game, right? I mean, I loved white's opening play, and you know, it was so clear how white had this sort of structure in mind. You know, just the idea of getting the long diagonal opened with the bishop, you know, careering through the board, and you know, Leela was willing to give up quite a few tempi in order to achieve that. And yeah, somehow it all makes sense, right? The fact that the knight hadn't been developed, was still on G1, enabled it to come to G5. You really get the feeling that well, I mean, from a structures, from all that point of view, like Leela is light years ahead of us somehow, right? In terms of just knowing where danger can exist. But I think it's not. I think it's one of those things, right? That and I've had the same experience, in shogi playing stronger players, right? That often you don't know what's going on. But yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that your position is hopeless, right? It just means that you don't know what's going on. So you've got to be able to mentally cope with that approach. And I definitely think that what Leela's exposing somehow is that a lot of us, and I include myself in that, could do with a lot better ability to just play even in not knowing exactly what's going on, but just trying to play good moves and trying to survive. But of course, the move that I've really loved, some great play from Leela, definitely this thing about, not just automatically exchanging, but just thinking, is it giving me more possibilities of Leela? And if you feel it's giving Leela more possibilities, avoid like the plague, right? That engine doesn't need our help in developing activity. But I mean, this move was just stunning. A move attacked by 3 pawns looks completely impossible, and Leela's just playing it to keep on breaking open lines. Just truly wonderful play there. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. I've got lots more Queen odds games to come, and well, just looking. I mean, just every day I'm just I've just got the 3 bot pages open, the rook odds, the knight odds, and the queen odds, and just every time I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that would be a great game to show. It's just ridiculous how how good Leela's play is actually, and how some glorious games like this where Leela wins very quickly. Others, it's just the middle game phase or the end game phase where you say, how is it possible that Leela's a rook down, with 3 sets of minor pieces on the board, and just seems to be, just easily winning it, easily outplaying some 2800 player, Okay, it's 1+1, but still, I mean, it's just stuff that I wouldn't have considered possible, and I would have said, yeah, I know, it can't happen. But you're looking at it, and it just looks like, oh yeah, White must have been winning all along, right, with a rook down. It's just incredible play, and I think but the basic idea of the reason the Leela guys are doing this is to try and make playing against engines more possible, because without just think what they could do, what they can do to us, without odds. So, but with odds, they're huge, these odds, some of them, queen, rook, knight, it's massive odds in chess. So I mean, we've just got then a fantastic trainer against whom we've got chances, but who still, if we get things wrong, can cause us a lot of damage. But can train all sorts of things like good defensive play, adjusting to things. Often, I often see a lot of players resigning when they lose some material in odds. But yeah, you're still up, right? You're still a material up. So don't give up. Keep on trying. Things will go wrong in your practical games. This can really train you to deal with that. It's and it's really, really difficult, right? I mean, I've played a lot of odds with Go. I'm a very weak Go player, so I get lots of odds, and I just see the game slipping away. But yeah, you've got to fight that, and you've got to you can really improve if you've got the mental strength to readjust and say, okay, but I'm still up. Let's take this position and move on. And I think that. Seeing how amazingly Leela finds active chances here, that you can learn a lot. I mean, the one thing you should take away from this game, apart from the beauty of it, is these sort of moves: A takes B4, Rook A1, such a typical mistake, even with quite strong players. Automatic exchanging, and but then you're suddenly seeing that it's giving Leela all sorts of possibilities for extra queen activity, even in some lines invading. That should really, you should see that and say, I am never going to exchange automatically again. So yeah, do look at this, from a learning point of view. Because that's the real idea. That's why the Leela guys are doing this, and frankly, it's just an amazing opportunity to test your chess out in a format where you've got chances. You've definitely got chances to to beat Leela like this, but you're just playing a superb opponent who can show you all sorts of amazing things and teach you all sorts of things that you'd never normally see. So do try and make the use of it. So there we are. Hope you're enjoying it. Lots more to come. Stay tuned.